All right, let's do this thing. Welcome, class, to Classics 160B1. Meet the Ancients. I, of course, am your professor, Dr. Rob Steffen, and today we are going to do kind of sort of what we were going to do on Wednesday before the technical difficulties interrupted us, and we are going to talk about the Punic Wars. And that, of course, is the series of battles between Rome and Carthage. So, lecture 10.3, the Punic Wars. And what I want you guys to pay attention to, or one of the things I want you to take away, is that this is the precipitating event that launches Rome from a regional power within Italy to an imperial power within the Mediterranean. Now, this is a weird thing, right? One of the kind of problems, maybe problems is the wrong word, but one of the kind of difficult things terminologically, right, when we're dealing with Rome is the kind of phrase, the Roman Empire, right? It kind of sort of means two things, right? On the one hand, when you're talking in terms of geography, an empire is something that occurs, right? Or it's, it's the type of thing that incorporates a lot of different groups of people that are ruled by a single ruling power, right? So when you're going outside of your kind of little area, incorporating vastly different groups of people, that's what we'd consider an empire. On the other hand, when we talk about the Roman Empire, frequently we're talking about Rome's political form as an empire where there's a single ruler. And that's going to come a couple of hundred years after this. So just kind of be aware that this is going to, Rome is going to start becoming imperial after the Punic Wars or during the Punic Wars. But that's kind of different than what we refer to as the Roman Empire with the first emperor Augustus a couple hundred years later. So I know it's a little confusing. Bear with me on it. You'll be fine. And we will make it work. I've got a good question in the chat. How is Professor Ruby? Ruby is sleeping right now. And I'm like, it's teaching time, Professor Rubes. Like, you got to get out of bed and teach, you know? Paychecks don't come in if you just sleep through class. So, I don't know. Maybe she finds, the Greek world far more interesting than the Roman world. I'm not sure. Anyway, here's what we got on the docket today. We'll start with a few announcements. We are going to recap some of what I talked about into the webcam by myself last time. And then we'll talk through the Punic Wars. And our goal today is going to be to finish up, again, around 12:25, 12:30. And anybody sticking around for the Delphi project, stick around for that. And we will see whether we can actually get into the world, the virtual reality world of Engage, and play around there. TAs, I should see if you guys can get signed up for that too. I'll see if, I don't know if we have any more of these, but I'll see what I can do. They're fun to play around with. Okay, so announcements. All right, announcements, there we go. You guys know it, put it into speaker view. You can see me, you can see the slides, excellent. I hope you guys are at least, at this point you should be at the very least thinking about your revised research proposal, okay? The thing is, it's a fairly large class, and if everybody tries to get an appointment with the Writing Center on the Thursday before this thing is due, it's just, they're going to be overwhelmed. People aren't going to be able to get appointments. I'm going to get a bunch of emails about how people couldn't get appointments, but they still want their extra credit anyway. Not happening. Get ahead of the game, write up your revised draft, take it over next week sometime, be ahead of this whole rush here, and you guys will be in great shape. But do that. I really, really think that would be one of the best things you can get out of this is if you can get feedback on your ability to write academically on this sort of thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and recap the early Republic, right? You remember these guys. If you see this sculpture over here, right? Maybe you can write in your notes angry looking bronze guy, Lucius Junius Brutus. And he is known because he is one of the senators that overthrew the last king of Rome, right? Tarquin the Proud, and founded the Roman Republic. And we've been talking that if there is one ideology for the Roman Republic, it is no kings in Rome, right? No more kings in Rome. They hate the kings. The kings are jerks. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. The Roman Republicans don't want no kings. All right, so that is the precipitating ideology of the Roman Republic. And we saw kind of what they instituted or implemented in lieu of a monarchy, right? And it's this republican form of government where you have different elected officials, you have an advisory body of the Senate, right? The highest officials are known as the consuls. And one of the interesting things is that in addition to political power in these different offices, it's the top two offices here, and especially the consuls. These are the guys who also lead the armies. So this is a really prestigious position here, right? Both because you get political power, but also you get like military prestige by being one of the consuls. And then we saw over the last two classes, Rome slowly start to expand outside of its like immediate hinterland and start incorporating other towns into the kind of their sphere of influence. And one of the institutions that they grant to some of those towns is the kind of right of Roman citizenship. And you don't need to remember each and every one of these, right? But what I do want you to remember is that Roman citizenship ends up being a pretty important thing because it kind of comes with a series of different rights. Political, right? Being able to vote and run for office. Kind of cultural, being able to marry other Romans. A lot of legal things in terms of the ability to make contracts, sue in court, that sort of thing. Some economic benefits in terms of the immunity from some taxes. And what ends up kind of that statue is confusing. Anybody know what's going on here? We haven't talked about it at all, but maybe like somebody's like taking a class on Roman history. It does look like a particularly creepy statue, doesn't it? With like a guy looking like a little bit happy and like holding two heads. Why is he holding two heads? I don't know why I'm asking you guys. We haven't talked about this at all. Vanessa, that is a great insight. And the reason these heads look like this dude is because these are his ancestors. He's related to these people. And so these are known as the imagines, like the imagines, the images. And so they're pictorial forms of ancestors. And in different sorts of kind of rituals and celebrations, they're brought up and kind of marched around that connect, and with the idea that it connects you to kind of the earlier history of your family within Rome. So this is a statue of a guy with his kind of representations of his ancestors that kind of would be representing some sort of religious ritual, remembering the past people in your family. Now, one of the other things, I don't know why we're talking about it right now, but that's kind of cool. Remember Greek sculpture, right? We didn't get like super heavy into it, but like, remember everybody like, they were all looking like super buff and super idealized and looking all good and stuff. Look at these Roman dudes, right? This guy's like all bald and like, this guy's got like a funny looking nose and like in general, right? They're all wrinkly and stuff. In the later Roman Republic, they come up with this style of art called verism, which means like kind of a true take on things. And so they get away from this Greek or Hellenistic approach to art where everybody's like super ripped and idealized. And all of a sudden, everybody like kind of looks the way they look. And it's an awesome style of art because you make it like makes you feel like everybody became ugly all of a sudden. But that's not the case, right? They're just changing the way they represent themselves to how they kind of actually look. Cool period, art historically. Okay. Anyway, again, with this one, you don't need to remember the difference between allies and municipia and colonies and Roman allies. What I do want you to remember, right, is that when Rome kind of met with other cities around Italy, and they started to incorporate them within the Roman sphere of power, they had some different ways of doing so, right? And so they would pick these things strategically based on things like how much of a fight did the other people put up? Or how much is Rome actually going to be able to control them? Do they actually need to give them a little bit more leeway or a little bit more freedom? Or can they easily kind of really stamp their control on that city-state? So different ways and different towns get incorporated at different sorts of levels, right? Sometimes including citizenship, other times including like half citizenship, where you get some of the legal rights, but maybe you can't vote. And then what we saw at the end of Wednesday's lecture, if you watched it online, was that it's through a series of different battles that Rome takes over the Italian peninsula. So it starts with the Samnite Wars. That's kind of in south-central Italy, right? So the Samnites down there. And by 290 BC, they've got central Italy taken care of. Next up, we've got the Punic Wars, right? And this guy, this General Pyrrhus, is a Hellenistic king coming from Epirus over here in kind of the backwaters of Greece. He comes over and starts fighting these city-states. And Rome starts thinking at this time like, oh, we've got alliances with some of those city-states. Why don't we just insinuate ourselves into these battles? And by the end of the whole thing, boom, Rome's got control over most of the Italian peninsula at this point in time. Now, the Etruscans, right, they put up the biggest fight out of anybody. And we saw that the site of Orvieto, right, known in Latin as the Urbs Vitus, the Old City, is the last of the Etruscan holdouts. And Rome surrounds the city for 2 years, trying to basically starve them out. And the citizens are digging wells, and they're sending out doves to get food and things like that. And eventually, after 2 years, Rome never actually breaks through and climbs the thing. But the Etruscans give up. The population's moved to a lake nearby, and the Romans take over the city. And so at that point in 264, and this 264 is kind of a useful date because that's going to come up later today. By 264, Rome has got basically the entire Italian peninsula. Okay, and we talked about some of the developments. We got a new form of army, the legion, right? And the legion is very, very useful and different from the phalanx, the Greek phalanx, because it's really flexible. You get these groups of 1 to 200 people or so, and they can be detached at different kinds of sizes to go do different things. Something that a phalanx is not very good at. And we'll see that in the fights against Pyrrhus, right? The guy we just talked about with the Pyrrhic victory. This ends up being very effective against the phalanx. We see the port kind of arising in the 4th century. We see Roman roads, right? One of the earliest, the most famous Roman road of all, the Via Appia, is built in the late 4th century. We've got aqueducts bringing fresh water into Rome, and we've got coinage arising too, right? So a lot of the kind of institutions and cultural developments that frequently got attributed to the kings really are developing in the kind of 5th and 4th century BC. But these are all very, very important for Rome's growth later on. You can see the development of coinage here, from these kind of crude lumps of bronze to stamped bronze to things that actually look like coins. Okay, so let's focus on our main thing for today, which is the Punic Wars. And it just so happens that in the very same year that Rome defeats the Etruscans at Orvieto, right? That very same year, they get embroiled in a much larger war with Carthage. And we talked about Carthage before. We talked about their kind of base in North Africa around the city. But also the fact that they've been sending out their own colonies in their own kind of sphere of influence, in Sicily especially. And Sicily is going to be the main place that we're talking about for this first Punic War. Now, as we go through these, you don't need to remember each and every kind of step of the battle along the way, right? What I want you to get is kind of a bigger picture for Rome's Rome's growing influence and military power, and then maybe a couple other cool strategies, and I'll highlight those. So this all starts in 264 when a group of mercenaries takes over the city of Messana, or Messina. And if you've ever heard of the Straits of Messina, that's like, if we had the rest of the map, it's a really narrow area here between the island of Sicily, right, the three-pointed island, and then mainland Italy is just right off the map over here. But some mercenaries take over the town. Syracuse down here, right, they besiege the mercenaries, and the mercenaries send out for help. And they're kind of clever. They actually send to both places. They send to Carthage for help, and they send to Rome for help. And Rome, at the beginning, they're hesitant. They're like, I don't know, we probably shouldn't be getting embroiled in this. But eventually they get talked into it because people are like, maybe this is exactly what we need to be embroiled into, because this is going to give us the opportunity to grow our power and prestige and wealth. And so both of these large powers, Carthage and Rome, show up around the exact same place in 264. And Carthage tries to prevent Rome from actually even making it onto the island, but Rome is able to weasel its way on there. And eventually, after kicking out the Carthaginian garrison, the Carthaginians get there first, and the Messenians kind of team up with them. But Rome's able to kick them out, and then they besiege Syracuse down here, and then they start going around and taking over all these other cities as well. So in the beginning of the First Punic War, Rome is very, very successful on land at winning some battles, both against the Carthaginians and against some of the Greek city-states like Syracuse that still are on the island of Sicily. Okay, so, well, I guess I just kind of talked about this, but yes, after kicking the Carthaginians out of Messana, which is the town up here closest to the mainland, they march on the city of Syracuse, and they're able to be very successful there as well. And then they just keep on kind of kicking butt in mainland Sicily. Now, Carthage, for its part, it kind of realizes that it doesn't have a super strong land army, but it is a naval power, right? It is very similar to Greece in the sense that, like, when you look at the map of, like, the Carthaginian kind of sphere of influence, it's almost all along the coast, right? It's almost all coastal. They've been huge traders for centuries. We saw them centuries ago, right? Putting up a good fight against the Greeks. And so they start to take this kind of battle and turn it into a naval battle. Rome over there, Rome starts funneling all its money into building a fleet of something known as quinqueremes. So that's kind of like a trireme, but with like 2 extra things. Like there's like 3 levels of oars, they're in groups of 5. But Rome builds its fleet and they go to battle at sea. And Rome starts getting their butt kicked at first until they come up with a very clever development. And it's what you're looking at right here. This is known as the corvus, or the crow, because it kind of looks like a crow's beak. And what they do is they were trying to turn this naval battle into a land battle at sea. So rather than going with the traditional style of naval warfare, where they would take their fleet, right, and take their ship and try to broadside the other ship, that was becoming increasingly hard to do because the ships were getting so big. It was like hard to get like enough speed to actually do it effectively. And it was like the ships were just better built, and so it was hard even if you hit it to make a dent in it. But what they would do is they would pull up alongside a ship, right, parallel to it, and then they drop the corvus, they drop the crow, and it like this giant like point on the end, the spike on the end, latches into the other ship, and then everybody boards, and then they then like fight on land at sea. And at first, this is like extremely effective. So they're actually able to defeat the Carthaginians at sea. Now, yeah, it's kind of, I don't actually know as much about like the Pirates of the Caribbean, but when you see that sort of thing, when you see people boarding ships, that's kind of at least what I have in mind with this sort of thing. Now, the tide eventually turns against Rome. And what ends up happening in a few storms, Roman ships like are getting destroyed. They're sinking because of the storms. And we think it's actually because of this device that they built. It made it like super top heavy, and it made it really easy for the ships to like fall over into the sea. So that went not so well. And eventually, Rome's got to get the fight back into the island of Sicily, and they get it kind of back into a mainland battle. And so on the island of Sicily, Rome is able to keep taking over these sorts of city-states along the northern coast. Carthage has been reduced to this little area over here. A guy by the name of Hamilcar Barca starts using this and then some guerrilla warfare tactics to besiege these cities and at least annoy them. But then a different group of Carthaginians wants to fight people at sea over here, and that's not so successful. And they can't quite come up with the Carthaginians can't quite come up with a coherent strategy. And while they're trying to figure it out, Rome loops in behind them, attacks the Carthaginian land base over here, and basically kicks Carthage out of Sicily for good. And in the aftermath of this, after Rome's victory on the island of Sicily, they use this to take over the island. And this becomes Rome's first province, or provincia. So the island of Sicily becomes Rome's first province in 241, and by the start of the Second Punic War, over the next couple decades, they're able to integrate Sardinia and Corsica as well. Now, in the kind of in-between time, right, Carthage has got to find some new source for funding, right? That's partially to pay mercenaries. That's partially to pay their army, right? That sort of thing. And by the start of the Second Punic War, 219 BC, right? So 2 decades later, Rome's now incorporated Sardinia and Corsica, but Carthage is looking huge, right? Carthage has decided, rather than Sicily as their kind of source of wealth, they're going to go take over Spain. And they make some like serious headway into Spain over here. So one of the other things I want you to take away from this is that even though in hindsight, right, Rome looks like super powerful and obviously like they won, at the time, there was nothing guaranteed about this, right? Like Rome's strength at the start of the Second Punic War wasn't really any stronger than Carthage. This thing could have gone either way, even though in hindsight, we, it seems like fate that Rome won. Okay, so at the start of this war, Rome and Carthage have a treaty that says the Carthaginians should not cross the Ebro River, right? There's the Ebro River's right here. Rome's got power over here. Carthage kind of has some of this white area over here and North Africa down here. And for the most part, they're not doing that, except for one young, very powerful general, a guy by the name of Hannibal, right? Son of Hamilcar, the guy who was actually kind of successful in Sicily for the Carthaginians in the First Punic War. And Hannibal starts like having little raids beyond the Ebro. And Rome uses this as an excuse, just like they did in the first one with the mercenaries down there, to really start coming at them. And so there's a little battle around this town of Saguntum here in 219. But things haven't really erupted, even though both the Carthaginians and the Romans kind of see a much larger battle looming. Okay. So a little bit about Hannibal. He's the grandson of the grandson of Hamilcar, who was fighting in the First Punic War. And as legend goes, he swore an oath at the age of 9 to like always do whatever he could to destroy the Romans, right? Because his family is like history, because of his family's history with fighting the Romans. And so it's kind of born into him at a very early age. Okay, so Hannibal besieges this town. This town was allied with Rome, and Rome comes in to help in 219. Now, Hannibal ends up taking a very, very unusual strategy, right? It seems to us now that like going across land is easy because we drive on roads or whatever. In the antiquity, it was far easier to sail places than it was to like go any long distance over land. And that's especially true when you have to cross mountains. But nonetheless, after the siege of Saguntum, Hannibal's taking his army, and he's crossing first the Pyrenees, which are the mountains in between kind of France and Spain here. And then he's going through the Alps from France into Italy, or from Gaul into Italy. And nobody's ever done this before. Nobody's ever marched from Spain through the Alps into Italy. Rome wasn't expecting this at all. And Hannibal's strategy, right, is A, he wants a single front for the war, and B, he wants to be able to surprise Rome, kind of attacking from a direction that they're not expecting. Okay, now Rome, on the other hand, wants to kind of take their fight through Sicily into North Africa. But they're not able to do so because Hannibal does his move so quickly. All right, so Hannibal marches through the Alps. He starts out with like 80,000 troops, 9,000 cavalry, 37 war elephants, and a tiny fraction of that make it, right? So only like a quarter of his troops actually survive the whole thing. Part of it's the Alps, part of it's like, there are all kinds of Celtic Gallic tribes right in here that you have to fight along the way just to be able to get to the Alps and get into Italy. So his army's really diminished, but once he gets into Italy, he starts finding a lot of city-states that don't like Rome very much, right? Maybe they're technically allied with Rome. Maybe they've been recently incorporated as a municipium or colony or something like that. But that's probably because Rome forced them into it. And so Hannibal's trying to get them all onto his side. And he starts winning battles almost immediately. So the first battle at Trebia in 218, he's able to basically sucker the Romans into battle. The Romans didn't have to fight. And Hannibal's able to win a major victory. The next year, the Battle of Lake Trasimine, he does this awesome move where he kind of puts out like some of his own people as bait. And the way that this works, right, it's hard to see here, but this is a cliff, right? So we've got trees and it's a steep hillside up over here. And then down below the cliff, we've got this lake. And there's a path along the cliff. And all the Carthaginians and their new allies, some of these tribes up here, the Gallic tribes, hide in the hills behind the trees. And they sucker the Romans in. They get the Romans walking along this path near the cliff. And then they storm down from the hillside and basically just push all the Romans into the lake. And when you're pushed into a lake from a high distance and you're full of like 50 pounds of armor, everybody's just drowning in there. So kind of another smart move by Hannibal. And by the following year, he has made his way into southern Italy, right? So he starts out crossing the Alps. Trebia, he wins up here. Trasimine, he's in like central Italy over here, I think. By the following year, in 216, he has made it all the way down here. And this is going to be his biggest battle yet. Now, Rome put somebody else in charge. This guy, Quintus Fabius Maximus, known as the Cunctator, which translates as the delayer. And he's basically like, let's just not fight Hannibal. He's going to run out of supplies. He's like way out of his zone, right? He's way out of his element, he doesn't have a good supply chain. Just delay things. We'll like kind of mess with the supply chain a little bit, but no big battles. We've lost 2 of them already. And that actually works pretty well for a while, but the Romans hate it. They hate the idea of like sitting around and not fighting. And so they get Quintus Fabius Maximus, the Cunctator, out of there. They put 2 new generals in charge. And that next year in 216, they meet down at Cannae, which is down here in southern Italy. And in this battle, Hannibal shows one of his like greatest moves, the pincer move, right? And what he does is as the Romans attack, right, he has his army kind of give way in the middle, right? So his army's formed like this, and these guys keep falling back like they're being defeated. And they keep falling back, and they keep falling back. And the Romans keep pressing forward, right? And they keep pressing forward, especially on this weak point that's retreating here, from their flanks as well. And pretty soon, right, at the appointed moment, once they've pushed far enough back, it's the Carthaginian flanks up here and down here that end up encircling the Roman army. And they've got them circled on like 360 degrees here. And the way that people describe it is that it's just a bloodbath from there on out. It's like the greatest defeat Rome has ever had up until this point in their history, and the greatest defeat they will have for centuries to come. And the way that people describe it, it took like 8 hours for them to eventually like finish just slaughtering the Romans. Can you imagine that? Just like 8 hours of just chopping people down to death. And in the end, something like 70 or 80,000 Romans die at Cannae. Now, some people argue that if Hannibal marched on Rome right after this, he could have taken the city. But what he does is he stays in the south down here, and he keeps trying to get other towns to flip over to the Carthaginian cause. It's mildly successful. Rome, on the other hand, puts a new guy in charge, and he takes the fight first to Spain. He's like, we got to take the fight to them, right? We got to stop playing defensive and start playing offensive. He first takes the fight to Spain, and then he's going to take the fight directly to Africa, right? So we've got Carthage right here, modern day Tunisia, or modern day Tunis is here. Tunisia is the country that it's located in. And he lands kind of outside of ancient Carthage. Fights some battles, wins some battles, and then marches on the city itself. And at this point in time, Hannibal freaks out, right? He's like, they've already won a couple battles out here. I've got to get back home. And this sets up for the decisive battle at the site of Zama in 202. Now, Hannibal's got his army. He's got his war elephants. Scipio has got his Roman legions. And what he does is he very strategically puts this is like part of the flexibility of the legion. He puts these gaps within the legionary kind of maniples or cohorts. And what that allows for is that when the war elephants charge, the gaps, like the legions, just kind of move out of the way. And the war elephants charge right through it. And in the end, what ends up kind of happening, or what the historians say, is that the war elephants killed as many of the Carthaginians as they did the Romans. And so it wasn't really a successful tactic on Hannibal's part there. But Scipio wins. Hannibal's not killed. He's kind of, he's not killed. He gets away. And he continues to rule for a little bit. But Carthage is put under very severe punishment, right? They've got to pay a ton of money over the course of 50 years. They have to give up their fleet, all this sort of stuff. And Hannibal keeps leading them. And he does an awesome job as an administrator. He pays off their debt like decades early. He rebuilds the fleet. And Rome sees this happening. And they're wary that something like this may happen again. So after the Second Punic War, Rome has now got the Italian peninsula and Sicily and Sardinia and Corsica and Spain. Okay, here's what I'd like to do. Now, did Carthage transport war elephants on boats? That is a great question that I don't know the answer to. Somebody find the answer there. We'll cover the third Punic War and we'll do more detail next time. What I will say is that the third Punic War becomes a massacre. So we've got Cato the Elder here. He sees kind of what Carthage is doing rebuilding, and he doesn't like it. He ends every speech to the Senate saying, Carthago delenda est. Carthage must be destroyed. And eventually, Rome, like they frequently do, finds an excuse to do some destroying. And so the way it works is that the Carthaginians messed with a Roman ally, one of the Numidian tribes, led by a guy by the name of Massinissa. And that gives Rome the kind of impetus and the technical right to actually attack Carthage again. And they show up and they say, look, hand over 300 of your noble-born children as hostages, hand over all your armor, hand over all your weapons, destroy your city, and move it somewhere else. And if you do that, we won't kill you. And Carthage kind of obeys. They hand over the hostages, they hand over their weapons, they hand over their armor. They're like, we can't destroy our city and move it. We gave you everything else. And after that, Rome says, not enough. We have your armors and weapons. We will kill you. And so over the course of 3 years, Carthage actually puts up a pretty good fight. But over the course of 3 years, they just massacre the city and the site and the people. People are enslaved and deported. Legend has it that after burning the whole city, they salted the ground so nothing would grow there ever again. And now they have made Africa a new Roman province. So this is in 146 BC, right? In 264, all Rome had was the Italian peninsula. By 146, they've got that. They've got Sicily, Sardinia, Corsica, Spain, and Africa. They have moved, right, from a kind of peninsular regional power to a major power in the Western Mediterranean. So let's go ahead and do attendance for today. After attendance, you guys can get out of here if you want. Honor students, go ahead and stick around, and we will talk Delphi for a few minutes. But the answer today is pink. So go ahead and put in pink, our nice pink-looking Heracles. And if you are getting out of here after this, do have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the beautiful weather out there, and I'll see you back here on Monday. All right, so make sure to put in pink. 4 people sticking around here. Let's go ahead and look at Digitizing Delphi. I want to start with just a few questions from you guys. I sent out the link to be able to get signed up for Engage. Any problems accessing that link or getting your information in there and getting an Engage account? Let me actually unmute you guys. And why don't we unspotlight this so we can all chat here? And do this, and do this. There we go. All right, so you have the ability to unmute yourselves if you want. Any sort of problematic issues getting signed up there?
Wait, you said you sent out an email?
Yeah, I did send out. So I sent out an email to people who had signed up on the Google Doc as like taking one of the elements for, or one of the monuments for the project. If you haven't done that, let me go find the link for that again.
Okay, I believe I did sign up. I don't think I received an email.
Okay, awesome. Can you shoot me just shoot me an email about that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm not able to get Engaged to work on my end. You're not able to download it on any Macs.
Okay. So I think what you can do is yeah, so this is actually something that I just learned that's super annoying. So it works fine on a PC, and you should be able to do it. Do you have like a smartphone?
I do, and I downloaded it, but I think my iPhone's too old because I can only get to like where I create an avatar, and then it kind of shuts down.
Okay. Let me think about that.
Okay.
We will find, like, don't worry about it. We'll find some way to make it work. You know, what we might have you do is like participate through Zoom or something. And I'm not sure exactly exactly how we'll do it, but we'll find a way. All right. You should still be able to use the kind of 3D modeling software on a Mac, I believe. So I think you'll be all right on that front.
And Dr. Stefan, turns out I did get the email. I just missed it.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Yeah. No. Okay. So you're good, Bryce. Tanner, do you need the email? Did you get an email?
Well, I got the email to like go in and like sign up, but I don't know. I didn't get like a specific thing for us to join the actual like whatever we're going into kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure what you guys received in addition to that. Let me see if I can find the.
This is on the email. The the second link, which is just to like the information, it's what most of us did. Like I assume we filled up. And the first link, it's what's going to lead you to download the app and everything else. If that solves the question.
All right, yeah. So the second link is useful for actually getting kind of signed up with an account. I'm gonna try to find this down here. Log in. So here is the link to engage. And you should be able to sign up for an account there. What you want to make sure you do is you use the exact same email address to sign up that you used to fill out the little Google form there, because that's what will let you, once you have an Engage account, access the University of Arizona materials. And then the software, if you do have a headset, the software itself should be available within the App Store within the headset. I have one of the Pico Neo 2 ones, but whatever you have, whether it's this or the Oculus, you should be able to find it in the App Store, and it should be free within there.
Is it supposed to be? I'm on my profile. Is it supposed to be under groups?
I'm not actually sure about that. I'm kind of like figuring this all out myself here, so I appreciate the patience on your end, but we'll get it figured out here. Let's see here. Yeah, eventually, once you get signed up with an account and once you fill out that Google form, somebody on the other end, not me, but somebody who's behind the scenes there, will get you hooked up into the University of Arizona account then.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
But I just clicked on the groups thing under my profile, and the University of Arizona does show up there. Okay. All right, so how many people are able to like have an account within? How many people don't have? What's the right way to answer this? How many people do have an account with Engage and are able to get like into the software now? Yeah, just put like an ICANN in the chat here. One yes, one no. Tanner, you're still working on it? Ralph, you're good? Maddie, okay, awesome. Annalisa, were you the person who mentioned you have the map or the Mac?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was.
All right. I gotta think about that one. All right, Nicholas, you're good. Excellent. All right, Annalisa, yeah, shoot me an email. Can you just shoot me an email and just say, hey, this is Annalisa. Like, I've got the Mac, and I'm having issues. I'm not sure totally how we're gonna resolve it, but I will work with you and we'll figure out something there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I'd like, why don't we do for next time? Well, let me ask you this: how many of you guys are normally go on to another class right after Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday class? Like, are we able to stick around for 15 minutes or something on either Monday or Wednesday? Okay, awesome. That's good. Yeah, if you can't on any day for any given reason, no big deal. But why don't we play around on Monday and see if what we can do is after class, actually meet within Engage. Is anybody hooked up so that they can actually access the University of Arizona rooms? And to do that, what you would do is you'd go into the software, and let me see if I can share this here. Blow that up. Let's get out of here for a second. And even if you can't get on here now, maybe jot down a quick note or type a little note to yourself here. The way you find this is once you get on the software, this is going to be your main page. You go to join session. You got the 3 options here. You just stick on where it is, the live ones. And then once you're hooked up to the University of Arizona, in addition to all the public ones, you'll have the University of Arizona ones. And we are digitizing Delphi down here. Just join. And then once you're in here, you can do a couple different things. Let's see if we can bring up some media here. You can watch my Ancient Athletics trailer.
Sorry, could you show
They said history was dull.
Hang on 1 second here. Can you say that again?
Could you just, when you get the chance,
Mhm.
show how you got there again?
Of course. Yeah, don't feel free to just shout out if there are any issues here. So how do I get back here?
And so I just created my Engage account, so will I not be able to see all of this yet?
So what I'm not totally sure is how long it's going to take the people behind the scenes to get you. Once you've got the Engage account, you'll then need to get access to the University of Arizona kind of Engage account. And I'm not sure how long that's going to take. We should be able to good to go by early next week. But that's what that Google form is for, so that they can take your info and get you connected to the U of A one. But what you should have is join this session. So that's the first thing at the top. Join session. And then what you need to do is you need to go over to the University of Arizona tab here.
Okay.
And does anybody have that? Is anybody able to get on there? Can anybody meet me in there?
I don't have the permission from U of A yet. Like, I haven't been invited.
Do we have to create a? Yeah, you will have to create an account once it's downloaded.
I'm able to get in. I'm in right now.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I can see you there. Oh, that's awesome. Are you in the headset?
Yep, it's that right now.
Oh, man, that looks awesome. That looks great. I don't think I'm in the... I'm just on, the computer desktop one now.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so what we'll be able to do then is you can use spaces like this for different presentation stuff. Chris, eventually what I'm going to do is we're going to move over to where we're actually going to build this thing, which is the Ancient Avebury one. They don't have an Ancient Delphi one, but we'll make our best there. And it's kind of a large open grassy space, and that's where we're actually going to construct this thing in the end. So the goal will be for next week, Monday or Wednesday or something along those lines, to be able to all kind of get into this space. And then rather than just on Zoom, we can have some of our conversation in there. All right. So Annalisa, shoot me an email. We'll figure out something. If you haven't done so, sign up for your Engage account and then fill out that Google form so that you can get access to the University of Arizona Engage account. And then...
Rob, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are the TAs allowed to enter this VR space?
Yeah, definitely. So you guys, I'll send the email to you TAs as well.
Yeah, what I did right now, just following your instructions, I just created an Engage account, but as like you're saying, it seems like I have to wait until the university contacts me, right?
I've got to send you I'll send you the link, and then there's like a Google form. And then let me see TAs too, what I could do about I can definitely get you like the VR rental info, but let me see if, we can get you some devices to play around with, if you're interested. So I'll look into that. And then we can use what they've already got for us here. What else can we do? We can build our pillars. Put it right on top of Chris's head. Anyway, okay, so that's our goal for next week. If you guys can go through that, TAs, I'm going to email you with the sign-up info. Everybody else, sign up for the Engage account. If you haven't gotten an email from me about like the Google form and the tutorial, email me and I'll get it to you. And then what we'll do is Monday or Wednesday next week, because we don't have class on Friday. Monday or Wednesday, we'll stick around for a little bit and play around and see how this actually works, all right? Awesome, guys. Thank you for your patience and working with me on this. I'm really excited about it. And I will see you back here on Monday, all right? All right. Bye, everyone. See you, Chris.